I remember when I was about, I think it was about 12 years old. And there was this certain chair that my grandpa used to always sit in. It was this brown and beige, like velvety, just chair that just you wouldn't put in your house these days. It would go in the basement, as a matter of fact. But my grandpa used to always sit in this chair. And I would go into his house, and the first thing that I would do is always run to him, and I would embrace him and hug him and tell him just, Grandpa, or at that time I called him Papa. I said, Papa, I love you so much. And this one particular time, he looked back at me, and he had probably said it to me a lot of times before, but this time it just struck a chord inside of my heart. He just looked back at me and said, well, goody. And I think for me, I was kind of expecting this, you know, I love you back or something. I was expecting something back from him, and I think it kind of taught me a little bit of a lesson. About a year and a half ago, my journey into what I'm doing now today kind of began. I took a trip to Bulembu, Swaziland, which is a kingdom about 5 or 6 hours northeast of Johannesburg, South Africa. About 3 or 4 days into the trip, we had decided to feed the entire city, which at that time, Bulembu was about 1,000 people. I'll never forget that as the sun began to go down over top of the mountains in Bulembu, there was a silhouette of a little boy over here who was just kind of standing by himself looking at the food lines and almost like, how am I going to get something to eat? Because he had probably not had anything to eat for a few days. And I walked over to him and just kind of said, can I get you something to eat? And he didn't understand me, probably because he was two, probably because he doesn't speak English. And anyway, I grabbed his hand and walked him over to the table and picked him up so that he was at least the level of all the other adults that were there. And we began to just, you know, give him some food on his plate and put some stew on there. And I took him back over to where he was, and I remember just sitting him down and not even really thinking twice about it. And so I went back to serving other people in the line, and then as the line kind of dispersed and I was taking a table back into the building, and again in the distance underneath, I remember it pretty vividly, there was a big oak tree or maple or some kind of big tree that I remember seeing over here. And I remember seeing this little boy laying on the ground, just kind of motionless. And I walked over to him, kind of nervous about what it was that I would find, but he was asleep. I picked him up and was really thinking that something wasn't right with this boy, and so I turned to a translator. She, to my surprise, said, this little boy, he's 2.5 years old, and he has AIDS, full-blown AIDS at 2.5 years old. She said he has a 4-year-old brother who also has AIDS. The mom had AIDS and died, and the father has AIDS and has left the kids. That means that these two are basically living by themselves, and she said, yes, they live by themselves, and they basically are doing life together as a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I asked her, I said, can we go and take him home? She said, yeah. And so we began to walk up the hill to where their houses are, and they had, it's not a house, it's really a 5x5 slab of concrete. And so the only option for the boy that I was holding was to really lay him on the floor in a corner. And so I took him over to the corner and I started to lay him down. And I'll never forget that as I laid him down, I leaned his head back into the corner and I kissed him on top of the head, and verbally inside of me, there was something that was stirring that wanted to come out of my mouth that said, man, I'll be back for you, or something like, I want to help you, or I'll be back to help you, or something. Or whatever, for whatever reason, verbally I couldn't say it, but on the inside of me, as I kissed that boy's head and started to back away and watched him still asleep, sweating and hot, and trying to fight off the infections that AIDS had caused him not to be able to fight off, I looked at him, and emotionally on the inside I said, man, I'll be back to help you one day. And so began, I guess, a journey for me. Every minute of every day, one child will contract AIDS through birth. And in that very same minute, one child will also die because they've already contracted AIDS. And in the very same minute, 4 parents will orphan their children because they have died of AIDS as well. It's a harsh reality that the Be Good Foundation must face, and we must do something about. We found the startling fact that there is a way to reduce the transmission of this virus from mother to child by 97%. And what's funny is that this little boy, 2.5 years old, gave me a reason to research, and literally now we have the opportunity to birth this brand new generation of children without AIDS. And the lesson learned from my grandpa in that old brown and beige velvety recliner: when I say I love you, I don't expect anything back. We really can be good to people. We can be good to people in our neighborhood. We can be good to these children in Africa. We can be good to our family. We can be good even to the stranger who's walking down the street. The fact is, we can be good to people everywhere with no strings attached.